Hey there and welcome to another video on my new channel, Calmly Explaining Veganism. So today's video, or this video, I'm wanting to talk a little about veganism versus vegetarianism. Are they the same thing? Are they different? Why would you want to be vegan and not just be vegetarian? So the first thing is really that they are different, thus the difference in the name. Vegetarians don't eat any meat, including usually fish and chicken and beef and all those other animal products made from the bodies of animals. And vegans also don't eat animal products that come from them, so things like dairy milk, things like eggs, things like honey. And so I guess one of the biggest reasons why I would be vegan rather than vegetarian is because while vegetarian, it doesn't put animals into our body, it does still affect animals adversely. What do I mean by this? Well, for example, dairy milk is probably one of the most obvious ones. So a lot of people think incorrectly that cows are these magical animals that just produce milk, and it's just always being produced and we've got to milk them, otherwise they explode. I mean, that was kind of actually what I thought for a long time there, until I learned that actually they aren't any different to any other mammals. They give milk for their babies when they've been, when they're pregnant, when they've got babies on the way, they start producing milk for their babies. So the dairy industry to make milk actually goes and impregnates them, using what I would think is a fairly unnatural way. You can check it out online if you're interested. So they get them pregnant, and then 9 months later they have, I think it's 9 months, they have their baby, and the baby is then taken away because the milk is not for the baby in the farmer's eyes. The milk is for humans. And so the baby is taken away usually within the next week. The baby is killed, so already we've got the death of an animal, so not so good. But on top of that, we've got the fact that the mother is torn away from her baby, or vice versa. And if you've seen any videos of families of animals or spend any time with them, you realize that they really are families. And so the actual tearing them apart is in some cases really truly heartbreaking. And mother cows, I think on average they give birth maybe about 5 times before they are considered what they call spent in the industry. And that kind of means that the mother's, her body's in no state to do anything anymore. Usually she can barely stand up, and pretty much in all cases she's given up on life. She's had 5 babies taken from her, and really the pain of it all just gets to her, and she's no longer viable, doesn't produce enough milk. So basically, with dairy, we've got the baby being taken away, killed. We've got the mother being forced to give her milk to humans, being held up, also being forcibly impregnated. A lot of not nice stuff. In terms of eggs, I mean, there's been a lot of myths about cage-free eggs, or this kind of thing. It's really cage-free, caged eggs, not actually that dissimilar from each other. The biggest difference is just there's no cages. There's still a whole heap of birds, maybe about that much more worth of space for them to stand on in the cage-free, but there's just a whole heap of birds without the cages, but they're still in the same place. They still probably don't see sunlight until they go to the slaughter truck. And so cage-free is really not a humane option, really not causing much benefit for the animals. It's just one way that people can say, I'm eating cage-free, look at me, I'm doing a good job. Unfortunately, not really doing that good a job for the animals. Also, the male chicks, they're not really any good to the industry, in the same way that baby cows, the male cows aren't any good for giving milk and they're killed. The baby male chicks are not any good for laying eggs, and they're killed. There's 2 types of chickens. There's broilers, and layer hens, and the broilers are the ones made up for meat. That's their purpose of being brought into the world by the farmers. And their systems have been altered so that they grow really, really fast, often causing them to get too big for their legs. They then have all these troubles and a lot of health issues. So they're not very good. And then the layer eggs, their only purpose is really to give eggs, if I've got my understanding correct. I mean, as I've said at the beginning, I'm not a guru, but I have looked into this and I'm pretty sure you can check on the internet, it's out there. I'm not trying to give false information. But the females, the layer hens, their only purpose is to lay more eggs. So they're stuck there having their eggs being taken away. The broilers, they're getting fatter, and not very nice. And then so the male chicks are killed, usually about 1 day old, something like that. And the way they do it is sometimes they put them in a bag and seal the bag, so completely cutting off their oxygen, so they're basically suffocated. And the other way, which is very common, is that they're grinded up, so put on a kind of moving belt, and then the belt goes off the edge into basically a blender. So that's the way they're killed. Not at all nice. And the hard thing to put two and two together is that just by buying eggs, that's actually causing the baby chicks to be killed in that way, because the more demand for eggs, the more eggs that have got to be hatched, the more males that have got to be born. If you don't demand eggs, if you don't pay for them, then there's less eggs being needed, less demand, and so the supply is kind of taken away, less male chicks being killed. So that's really already in both scenarios we've got deaths. So the idea of why wouldn't you drink milk, why wouldn't you eat eggs, no one's being killed. Unfortunately they are. Now if you do it for a health benefit, then there's really still a very big difference between veganism and vegetarianism. Vegetarianism, while it is still better for your health, the body really doesn't have any need of meat. Veganism is definitely much better for you. Even just looking at eggs, cholesterol, our body makes all the cholesterol that our body needs. Adding extra cholesterol is one of the leading causes, at least in America, where I'm living, one of the leading causes of illness and deaths. And all that cholesterol just clogs up your arteries. They're even saying now it is bad for the brain, which needs blood flow. Things like brain loss, memory loss, and stuff like that is seeming to be actually sometimes a blood flow issue. And so the cholesterol and all that we get from eggs, our body doesn't need it. In terms of milk, there's things like dairy milk is not so good for you. Again, we've got the fattiness aspect, but also this myth that dairy milk is the only form of calcium is not at all true. There's in almond milk, there's plenty, in soy milk, all that stuff. And also the reason the cows have the calcium in the first place is from eating all the grass and all the stuff that they eat. So we don't need it for the calcium, and in fact they're actually showing now that the cow's milk, the dairy milk, is actually bad for our bones, which is 100% contradictory to what most people think and what I thought. And I believe, again, you can check the actual doctors that do this research, but I believe the reason is because of the acidity. The only way of neutralizing the acidity that we get from the casein in cows' milks is by taking the nutrients from our bones. So you do see, if you just do a quick Google search, you see a correlation between osteoporosis and between the amount of dairy milk that a country consumes. So, I mean, if you're looking at the health benefits, there's definitely a difference between veganism and vegetarianism as well. And then finally, if you're looking at the environmental factors, being vegetarian is significantly better than not being vegetarian. It's still much more different. There's still all the animals got to be fed, so all the environmental stuff that goes with producing that food. the animal's still got to be clean, the whole slaughter process, all that kind of, it's really not good. There's the waste that the animals produce. Even though we're not eating them, they've got to be there to produce this, what's then turned into, food. So if we just eliminate any need for the animals that are being farmed at all, that's considerably cutting down even further than vegetarianism. Veganism considerably cuts down the amount of environmental impact that we have by going vegan. We're being very good for the world. So, I mean, again, I always feel like I ramble in these videos, but I'm just, as the profile says, trying to calmly talk about and explain veganism. And that's kind of the thing. Going vegetarian is often used as a step to veganism. That's what I did. And in 99% of the cases, that's because people don't actually know what veganism is all about. They just think vegetarianism is, enough, not realizing that, hold on a second, by being vegetarian, we're still killing animals, we're still causing them to suffer. And I guess the only final thing I want to say is that, people say, I would go vegan, but I can't give up cheese. You're probably thinking that if you're not vegan now, that they're showing, there's a certain addictive quality in cheese, and I've read, I think somewhere, that it might have something to do with the whole mother-child bonding that goes in breast milk, which is what cow's milk is. Meant for their baby, and it's supposed to bond them together. I've read somewhere that that's part of the reason why it's so addictive, but I'm sure there's other parts to it as well. And really my best answer for that is that there's alternatives. You probably won't believe it if you haven't tried it, but we're at an exciting new age where there's alternatives, so you won't have to, and I'll probably talk about this very soon, you won't have to give up foods, you just replace them with a vegan version, and that way you get the addiction, you satisfy it by eating a completely animal cruelty-free product. And yeah, so it is very possible to go vegan, not just vegetarian. If you need to go vegetarian on the way to going veganism, maybe that's a good stepping stone, but really get to veganism as fast as you can to try and make the best difference for yourself, for the environment, leading on to future generations, and then also for the animals. That's enough for today, but thank you for watching. Hit subscribe if you want. I currently don't have very many, if any, subscribers, so that'd be nice. And leave a comment if you want to get in touch with me and ask any questions. Thanks. Bye.